So some of these players, it will be their first game, but they look like they have mentors. Honestly, that's the best way to get into this game. Find somebody, there's a Discord, it's super active, even Reddit, just something. Find a person, ask to play a couple games with them. They will learn you the ropes, and then you can go in and blow up all the spaceships and feel good and beat golds while you're blue, and that's the best. Alrighty. I wasn't paying attention to the sides. Gonna assume US OSP. Not USN. That's a different book series. Gonna assume OSP is deploying Team 2 here. Can't exactly tell from the tickers, although there is an ANS here. I think that is the new player. Probably they're playing ANS. Maybe that makes Team 1 OSP. Wasn't paying attention. We'll soon find out. Nothing too crazy on deployment here. Teams shuffling about, hopefully coordinating in team chat, which we won't be able to see. Not a whole lot of different fleets or escorts on Team 1 side. Going to see how that works out for them. Heavy push on the right-hand side. Shall we see the dreaded slow push? If that happens, they're going to run into a big majority of the OSP players, either cutting through the middle on their way to A or getting spotted out by D. Neither team has many high scouts. I wonder if I accidentally stumbled into an ANS on ANS game. But I see an Ocello, meaning definitely not. Unusual. This looks like a Team 2 deployment just from the angle, I'm guessing. Which means 0 or 1 at most early warning radars. Alright, on the bottom, looks like a pair of mine-laying shuttles. The rest of the fleet, 250 PD tugs escorting a 450 Ocello. Cole, his very first game, they gave him the container ship, and it is loaded with 240 of them. Interesting. Well, hopefully his friends prepared him how to use that. Meanwhile, Rome GPT is using, we've seen this fleet before. It's a modified version of Task Force Garnet. So Plasma, T30 monitors, plus the early warning radar and LRT tugs for scouting and radar locking, and then a single capping shuttle. Meanwhile, Sanctus, pair of 450 LNs, they're going. Looks like B, we'll see if they transition into a flank or not. Otherwise, they're just going to hang out and probably push mid. Rounding out his fleet is an LRT monitor. Interesting choice. Not sure exactly why. I suppose it is the same cost as a tug, just a little unusual to take one instead of a tug. Especially considering that is an EWR tug. Greasy on the ANS side. Gonna guess a pair of 250 CLs plus backpack, which is indeed what they have. Looks like they've got S3Hs, very standard. Rounding him out is going to be an EWR. Pair of EWR, not EWR, EWAR corvettes. Hellraiser looks like he's taken a missile CL. Hasn't moved at all. Going to guess it's Yubnub. Haven't seen any missiles come out yet. Meanwhile, Jesus Joe Dirt is coming in with the 450 BB and a pair of, gonna guess, 450 Axfords. That is indeed what they are. Does not appear to be Task Force Oak. If it is the old version. No, I see a floodlight on there. Definitely not Task Force Oak. Opening moves, looks like the capping shuttle is going to take A, putting OSP in the lead. They're capping the rest of their naturals. OSP already have theirs, but unfortunately that little bit of extra speed not going to pay off for them. as the OSP is going to move into the early 3 cap. As far as positioning here, looks like the entire A&S team's going heavy in on this right flank, but unlike some other cases, they're transitioning through the mid. This is a very dangerous play, especially considering the position of the A&S or the OSP team. They've got that monitor group all the way into the middle now, but they are going underneath. This is certainly precarious. If the A&S team gets spotted out here, this OSP monitor group can come up right underneath the rock, absolutely within range, pull off the ambush, and Plasma and 100mm just pepper someone into the oblivion. Meanwhile, some containers coming out, some mines being laid. The Axfords taking a high position. Looks like the entire team wants to push in on mid at the same time. Certainly commendable. That's how you want to do it. I'm just a little unsure about this approach, especially considering the OSP's move to send those monitors under the map. They are going to come out in just the perfect position to ruin the A&S day. Meanwhile, looks like the 450 LNs have sensed an opportunity. They are moving rather far on the OSP right flank. Possibly they'll make it in time to catch these Axfords unaware. Certainly he's moving this far out to try and cross the entire distance without getting picked up on radar. That's going to give him this right pillar to use as cover, unload his 450s, and then back around behind it. The perfect play, really, for a pair of these. Picked a Pepple Piper. Meanwhile, the Acello group sort of dilly-dallying in the back here. It does need to come and support what is in the mid. It looks like that one of the CLs plus a Corvette has decided to make a run for it. And unfortunately, nothing here to stop them. That Acello a little bit too far, although it looks like the CL might be having second thoughts about moving all the way on to A. The rest of its team, its battleship, hanging out on the flank. And here come the first set of missile launches out of that missile CL. We will go ahead and follow these, see if they connect. Monitors about T-minus 2 minutes from coming up. Either they might see where these missiles are coming from, choose to go that way. They could come up directly underneath the CL, cause all sorts of pain for that. The battleship might be a little bit too far away. It's certainly within plasma range, maybe the far edge. Oh, looks like these missiles are curving, so they will miss the monitors. They might have gotten a visual, foiled the ambush, but in the meantime, they are going to be striking other targets. Unfortunately, we're not able to see what type of Seekers are on them. Looks like they were headed for A. They are activating on a dead Hulk. Seekers hit, decoys launched, and that is certainly a whole lot of points that just got emptied into a dead shuttle there. Unfortunate for the CL player. Let's take a look at his ammo. Looks like that was roughly a quarter of his SG M300Hs. And despite all that, OSP continuing to hang on to A, although as I mentioned, they don't have anything capable of contesting this light cruiser. It's actually not been shot at even. Wish this Acello was a little bit further up. Those 450s could be dealing serious damage to this CL at this point. There's really nothing over here that would warrant him being this far back. Oh! Unfortunately missed that. The CL did spot out the monitor ambush from below. Looks like a bunch of missile hits. This one has restores, but it unfortunately ate a hybrid. That might have taken out. Yep. So that is a mission-killed monitor right there. Very unfortunate for this player. Here come the rest of them. These missiles are definitely going to be able to clean up this ambush. Hybrid's one of the big weaknesses of OSP, and this monitor group does not have enough point defense to stop truly a slightly overcommit here from the missiles. Meanwhile, the battleship wants in on the action. Taking a little peek through this gap here, going to 450 them. These monitors definitely going down in short order here. Unfortunately, not within range. They probably got spotted out by that original S-33 size 3 hybrid launch through the gap here. A little bit unfortunate for them. If they'd been able to close the distance a little more, bide their time, or maybe even come out closer to their E point. Instead, they're going to eat all of these missiles and certainly die. Let's take a look at the carnage. Armed with, looks like, nothing but the 20mm Pavises, not defenders, but still, definitely not enough. Some of them might have restores available. Some of them definitely do not. This one is mission killed. Still moving, its weapons taken out, its plasma's down, its restore. It's trying to get one T-30 back online. Unfortunately, not going to be enough to kill this CL, although they might have gotten the job done anyway. CL with only one volley of size 3 hybrids left. Essentially trading one fleet for another fleet, at least in terms of tonnage. Meanwhile, containers coming in on this battleship, more than likely unable to pierce. Let's see if they're able to get in. And no. Plenty of flak available. Stone walls, even Auroras. It will be enough to get the job done. Especially this container, I believe it's firing. Let's see if we can count the different missile buses here. There's 1, 2. So this is, I believe, a flight of 8, either 7 or 8. Maybe even less than that. Let's see. That looks like 6 there. It will not be enough to pierce the PD net of a battleship. Meanwhile, that CL, which capped A, is backed all the way out. Still no one has shot at him. This Acello on the left looks like it's trying to engage the Axfords. The line ships lost sight of them for a little while. Look like, oh, unfortunately they are equipped with sun drives. That leaves this one dead in the water until it can effect repairs. This one's still moving around. Not able to see exactly what he's going for, but it's certainly not the rest of the battle as the ANS team continues to press their advantage. Now at this point, the Axfords bearing down on this container. The minefield, not going to be enough to do any serious damage to these fairly uninjured Axfords. This one looks like it's been hit by something, but more than capable of repairing itself. And the battleship on the other side, these two groups well within firing range of each other. As I mentioned, that monitor group getting squished puts the OSP in a really bad position. I don't have high hopes for them at this point. These 450 LNs are going to have a tough time dealing with these CLs if they move to engage. Meanwhile, this is Cello and these 250 tugs. Too little, too late, out of position, not able to bring their firepower to bear as these Axfords continue to push into the middle. They might actually be firing on this container ship now. If not, they soon will be. Looks like they have had enough for now, ducking behind the rock. This is actually slight misplay. Whenever containers are bearing down on a pair of ships, especially if they're armed with a lot of point defense, you don't want to get really, really close in on a rock. It cuts down the amount of... Oh, here we go. As I'm mentioning that, it cuts down on the amount of time your point defense actually has to sight and engage missiles. In this case, they curve around the rock, slam into these Axfords, doing an incredible amount of damage. Any container hit is very debilitating, and these have eaten more than one apiece, blown out the entire mid of the ship in both cases. That's going to let this Ocello with its 450s easily chew through the remaining modules. Essentially, they're dead. With 0 hit points, all they have to do is get tapped one time by these 450 cannons, and they will go gray, meaning they can't be revived without a restore. However, the CLs, taking advantage of the situation, they're moving to engage this Ocello group. Looks like the Ocello group is in turn engaging them. Slightly unfortunate. That is going to let these Axfords necro themselves back into the fight. Meanwhile, the points tick onward. The initial OSP gained being cut and overtaken by the ANS. Let's see what happened to that battleship. It's on its way to E. About 2 or 3 minutes away from flanking this Ocello group. Once that happens, it's probably going to be lights out for it. Meanwhile, the containers still continuing to stream on, engaging these Axfords, or possibly going for this CL group. A good play by Sanctus over on the OSP right. He's actually backed up his 450 line ships and is using them to engage the rear of these Axfords. Oh, more hybrids coming in. Launched from the CL. That'll be the CL backpacks at 6 S3Hs apiece. Looks like they're mostly going for the tugs. One of them does hit the Ocello. Certainly that is going to be some tugs knocked out of the fight. Haven't quite managed to kill them. Actually, everything survives here except a thruster. It does have DC, so eventually it will be able to bring itself back. Meanwhile, unfortunately, the DC locker being taken out here. Oh, it has another one. So despite eating what I assumed, or that could have been... No, probably not HKPs. Meanwhile, the 450 LNs have completely finished off this Axford. Probably will do the same to the other in short order, but here comes the, or I expected to be coming, that battleship. Looks like it has had second thoughts, doesn't want to move into the minefield, although it would certainly be able to just shoot every mine out of the air. And instead it's opted to take a little bit more of a roundabout flank around this rock. It's going to be a good position once it gets there, but in the meantime it is quite a bit of a slower approach, and this Ocello group might actually be able to move out of the way. Let's take a look at what else is happening. Container line ship managed to fire about half of its missiles at this point. Some ripostes coming out against the last of the Missile CL's missiles, and Sarissa is taking them out. That's going to leave this CL completely out of missiles. It's good as a capper. Looks like it is going to continue puttering around on the right-hand side. Maybe go for an E-cap if it can. Meanwhile, the CLs are engaging The 450 line ships, this Axford is engaging the Ocello. Not a whole lot left alive on the thing, but it does have its lower and rear turret, which are engaging. It's putting its nose on to the 450 line ships. An interesting decision. This Ocello group, meanwhile, is engaging this CL. If it just took the time to focus probably just 2 minutes worth of fire onto this Axford, it should be able to quickly kill it, which would give itself some breathing room. Meanwhile, a 2/3 effective Axford's going to pummel it. Here come out some Aurora shots against containers. That should be a clue to this Ocello player. It is in deep, deep danger. And here come the 450s of the battleship unloading into this Ocello. We'll go ahead and watch that die in the bottom right as we look on for the tracers. Especially here, these shots coming out of this Ocello at this extreme range against this light cruiser, it's not going to be scoring many hits at all, if it even manages to hit. Definitely would have been a better use of its time to engage. Looks like some SGM 100s. Suppose that is just BM going at the battleship there. As I was saying, it would have been a much better use of this Ocello's time to put its 450s into this crippled Axford, taking it out of the fight. At this stage, I mean, unbeknownst to him, he was going to get killed by this battleship. There's almost no way the Ocello and this tug group can take out this battleship, but they could have taken out this Axford, leaving themselves in a good position to win. They can easily go for C. They've actually captured D already with a tug. They would forfeit A to the battleship, but they have enough firepower to engage and take care of these CLs. The container ship, still alive, still a threat to any singled out ship, would have been in a better position. Instead, this Axford is going to stay alive. It can cover the CLs and everything else as they push into B, taking that. The battleship will destroy this Ocello in short order and transition that into probably an E cap. That is, of course, the problem with using these 450 cannons at extreme ranges, even if you do have a fire control radar lock, which it looks like they do not at this moment. You're at the mercy of the maneuverability of the ship where you're firing at. Even an Axford at this range from these 450 LNNs, going to be able to easily dodge, duck, dodge, dive, and what's the last one? Anyway, not get hit by the 450s. That's the summary there. OSP in a good position overall, but it will be tough. Strategically speaking, I think ANS has a clear advantage here. They have the battleship, which is untouched practically. This Ocello is living on borrowed time. There is a container ship. It is capable of making big plays, but it will be very difficult against the heavier ships to push them through. Now, as I say that, if he is able to duck, dodge, duck, dive, and dodge again. There you go. If he is able to curve his containers around, he could potentially hit this Axford again. It's very difficult for weapons like any missile, high explosive missile. It isn't able to cut through the heavy armor and the structure of the Axford. It can kill the components all the way down to red, but it won't destroy them. And that's really the key to taking a ship out of combat. You have to destroy either its CIC with no restores available, or its drives with no restores available. If either of those two things happen, sorry, not the drives, just the CIC. Basically, if the game detects that you can not move or command a ship to do anything, it automatically evacuates it. But since this has its CIC and its drives, even if its guns are blown off entirely, it will still be capable of moving, which means it's still capable in the game. Oh! As I said that, the second one evacuates. Looks like its CIC did get killed by a stray 450 shot from that Ocello. So eventually, the Ocello did do as I asked and finish off this axe fort. Good job to it. It's managed to stay alive for a long time. I'm guessing what happened is the battleship decided to focus its fire on these tugs, which are all dead now. Interesting choice. I see this a lot. Players decide to go for quick kills, I assume. But you really need to take into account everything about the fleet that you are engaging. In this case, there were the threat of those 450s on this Ocello. Oh, as I say that, the Ocello gets taken out. It's evacuating now, and that is that for that fleet. You really need to take into account the threat that each fleet possesses. Yeah, there were 250 cannons, the 250 millimeters. They are capable of damaging an Axford, but a 450, especially against an already injured hull, like both of these were after those containers hit, that's potentially them out of the game. If this Ocello had been focus fired by the battleship and killed much faster, this Axford would more than likely be alive at this point. Meanwhile, the 450 LNs have completed their flank, moved all the way back around behind C point, and managed to catch enough of the thrusters and drives of this CL to stop it in its tracks. That will allow the rest of these heavy shells to go in and completely core the ship, and it is now dead. That leaves combat capable on the ANS side, essentially the battleship and the CL. And with that, OSP almost guaranteed to take this game. They will take C point and maintain at least a 3 cap, I would assume. There's no way, unless they play extremely sloppy, that this one battleship is able to capture multiple points. They do have this capping CL. It doesn't have any missiles left on board, but it can drive in and cap a point. However, facing that, we have this single gun CL to basically force all of these tugs and these 450 line ships off of the points. It's going to be a close battle. It'll come down entirely to maneuvering. Let's take a look. There actually are not many ships in good positions for the OSP to capture points. There are these tugs up here. They could scoot around back behind and go back to D, of course. This container ship, it's running low on missiles, still has plenty though. This would be a good opportunity. You can set up, using the containers, it's possible to make like a weaving path. One comes all the way around through E, for example, and then you can program another set to come from the opposite direction. And if you time it right, actually those missiles will converge from opposite directions. An attack like that is incredibly difficult for the PD controller to deal with. And that's ignoring the fact that you've essentially doubled your missile count because you have 2 waves hitting at the same time instead of 1. So we'll use this angle. We've got an eye on the CL. It was engaging these 450 line ships, but they aren't going to be able to do much against the almighty rock. Meanwhile, more containers coming out. These might be going for this frigate here. Take a look at that. So we'll zoom over there. Actually, doesn't look like that's the case. They are going for the battleship. If at first you don't succeed, I suppose. However, this battleship, it still has all of its point defense intact. It's deciding to pop off a couple of rounds at a dead monitor, because why not? Oh, it looks like they have done something bizarre there. They closed almost on top of the battleship, and then, well, here come these, which look like they'll strike. And that might just be the game for OSP right there. These containers slam in amidships. Taking out reactors, taking out something. Something is strange with these seekers. Not sure exactly. There's no chaff, there's no jamming. They're just flying on by. It's interesting. The answer to the question, how do you have so many containers, is because containers. I suppose they've been waypointed? Incorrect. Honestly, whoa, here come. Okay, so they definitely have wake seekers. They might only have wake seekers, or at least be relying on them heavily. More containers slam into the battleship, taking out its rear. Let's see what the CL is up to. It's gone. It's opted to go around the D pillar. Ostensibly, excuse me, a good decision, as that would break up the line and allow it to engage somewhat from some cover these 450 line ships. Unfortunately, these line ships just don't give a crap. No, these missiles are definitely cruise, so they're not relying on illuminators at all. Haven't seen any illuminators come out at all from the OSP side. This unfortunate battleship is stuck. It has plenty of restores available. It's absolutely capable of necroing back up. In fact, in the grand scheme of things, it's not even that hurt. DC will take care of this. It's more critical that it's not able to move or fight. However, that E-cap, proving to be crucial, keeps the ANS ahead. And as I mentioned, there's no good ships in a position for the OSP to recapture, or at least they're not moving to do that. The ANS team is playing a game of chicken with these 450 LNs over here, and unbeknownst to them, they're winning because the points continue to tick up. OSP absolutely capable of winning this game. They have the combat advantage. Unfortunately, they're losing on the control points. Unless these 450 LNs are able to push off the CL and recap D and do it in a hurry, this game is going to go the way of ANS. More containers slamming in. There go the lights out on the bridge. Let's see how long it stays that way. Again, the HEI missiles aren't able to take out reinforced modules. So this DC locker looks like it's the only DC locker, but it is enough. Unless these drives go critical. I suppose this player is either opting not to or doesn't know about reactor scram to save his ship from these exploding. And here come the line ships. Let's see if they're able to get this engagement, push off and cap, seeming unlikely as ANS ticks past 930 points. At this point, they absolutely need to cap D without a moment's hesitation. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like these lime ships are even going in towards the capture point. There's tugs sitting available. There's many things that could be moving in to do it. Looks like finally they are going to go in. But it's more than likely too little too late at this point. Even if they enter the capture zone, they won't have enough time to cap it before the ANS tick over and win on points. Drive getting taken out. Well, one of the drive. This is double drive. So it's still maneuverable for now. Looks like one of those monitors, two of those monitors, managed to necro themselves back up, and one solitary T-30 cannon is firing. That will more than likely... Oh, there goes the battleship. Again, like I mentioned, either the player didn't know or opted not to. Probably did not know about reactor scram. How that works is if your ship is experiencing a critical reactor event, you can open up the DC board. Here you see it here. Emergency reactor shutdown. If you slam that and wait, I believe it's 90 seconds, your ship will be saved from its reactor exploding. It does kill the reactor dead, so it will be gray. But on something like a battleship, especially that one, had plenty of restores. It could have used those to get back up. Anyway, it doesn't matter. As the ANS team, kudos to this CL player going and capping E. That won the game right there. So well played to both players, especially the CL, doing CL things, getting work done, a lot of damage. Hey, thanks for the follow, Ekrabum. Ekrumbum. Sorry if I slaughtered that, but in my defense, it is a heck of a weird name. Lost my train of thought there. Yes, so this CL doing a great job, pushing in, capturing A. Kudos to him. Kudos to this player. Managed to slaughter the monitor. Although it did cost the majority of his missiles. Lots of damage done. Good job from the Axford player. This Ocello, I really wish this Ocello had been a little bit more aggressive, selected targets a little bit more appropriately. Did do a good job, held on to what it could. This container player, doing container things, and the monitors, got to respect the monitor push. It didn't work out this time, but maybe next time it comes in and it just slaughters from that angle. And of course, these 450 LNs, unfortunately, if these had just driven onto the points, the game might have ended differently. Well played, all players.